Hey there, good to see ya. It's been a little minute. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to my first entry into what I will be unofficially calling my yapping series. I've got some review work and some other things cooking at the moment, but between school and how long it takes to make some of these videos, I really wanted something that I could do that would let me kind of feel a niche anyways that I feel like I'd be lacking with reviews, which is just sort of go into way too much detail about topics that can't constitute their own review. These videos in particular are primarily audio focused. I'm not doing any crazy editing or whatever for these, so feel free to shove me into an abstract voice box while you do whatever it is you're doing. Not like I'm there watching you personally. I don't have a government or tech job. I'll still have stuff on screen that's relevant-ish in case you're eating dinner by yourself and need something on your phone. Hey, no offense. We've all been there. But it's not necessary for you to watch the screen. That all makes sense? Good. Let's get started. Monster Hunter World has a lot of skills, like a lot. And now that I've finally beaten the game proper after however many years I've owned it, Fatalis and all, I feel like I'm now entirely qualified to give objectively correct takes on every single skill and set bonus in the game. So for today's ramble, that's exactly what I'm going to do. This took a lot longer than I thought it would. I'm going to be ranking every single skill and every Iceborne set bonus. Because why not? And not only am I ranking them, I'm ranking them all twice. I'm going to be breaking all of these into two separate tier lists. The first list is about how useful I believe a skill or set bonus is, objectively speaking. And the second list is about how expressive I think it is, so sort of not necessarily how good it is, but how unique it feels. A useful skill may not necessarily be very expressive, and an expressive skill may not necessarily be the most useful. For those who have not played Monster Hunter World, or any Monster Hunter game, skills are mostly passive abilities that augment or improve your character in some way, and they're typically acquired through armor pieces, skill slots on your armor pieces, and through amulets or talismans. Most skills tend to have multiple levels to them, with each level you have further improving whatever it is the skill does. World also has armor set bonuses, which become active whenever you wear enough pieces of a particular armor set. So like if Dodogama had a set bonus that caused you to one-shot every monster, but you needed 4 pieces to have it, then the skill's not active if you have anything less than 4 pieces. So I'm going to be covering literally all of these. I promise not all of these are just me reading the description and giving them a ranking. Some of them are, but a lot of these skills I do have a lot to say. At the end of the video, I'll have the tier list up on screen so you can see all of them. I didn't really want to flash you every second. Some of these skills go by pretty quick. So, with all that out the way, we can get started. No, we can't. I just remembered. If you're watching the screen and there's world footage up, you may notice if you've played World that some of the stuff looks different. The monsters might look a little different, or the gameplay seems a little different. At this point, I was playing around with mods. None of them are skill related. I've played this game vanilla. I just wanted to mess with stuff while I got footage for this video. So, okay, now we can start for realsies. Without any particular order, let's start with Defense Boost. Defense Boost is a skill that sounds interesting on paper, but kind of sucks in execution. At level 1, Defense Boost gives you a flat 5 to your defense, and scales up each level until it maxes at level 7, where it gives you a 10% defense bonus on top of a flat 35-point bonus, and a flat +5 bonus to all elemental resistances. In the early game, maybe even in high rank, Defense Boost is okay. I think I rocked it back when I played low rank and high rank for the first time forever ago. But the issue is, by the time you get to the expansion and unlock master rank, monsters hit so hard, and the default defense rating of armor gets so high, defense boost is totally outclassed by everything you could ever fight. If a monster in master rank is already weak enough to need multiple hits to kill you, defense boost loses any potential benefits. And if a monster is strong enough to where it can one or two shot you, defense boost is never going to save you. On top of this, defense boost has like 7 levels of investment that it asks for, which heavily takes away from any number of skills you could use that are actually useful. Maybe if defense boost gave purely percentage-based defense bonuses, it might have a niche usage, but it doesn't, so it sucks. It's going to go in F tier for both. Attack boost suffers a lot of the same issues that defense boost does, only instead of inadequately upping your defense, it inadequately ups your attack instead. Just like defense boost, it gives a flat free point bonus to your attack at level 1, then scales up to a flat bonus of 21, and a 5% bonus to your affinity at level 7. Again, it's the same problem here, way too high of an investment for something that easily gets outclassed by the base damage values of weapons and most other skills that buff your attack in some way. It also gets 2 F tiers. Health boost is, in my humble opinion, the most essential skill in the game. It arguably becomes unessential if you have access to Fatalis gear, but by that point you've literally beaten the game anyways, so who cares? Health boost does what it says, it gives you more health. At level 1, it gives a 15 point bonus, and at level 3 gives you 50. This is easily the best skill in the entire game for not dying. Health boost alone can turn many one-shots into 2-shots, which in a game like Monster Hunter is a big deal, given that you can only faint so many times in a mission before the mission ends. Unless you're running a speedrunning build, or a build where you are genuinely good enough, which I'm not, to not get hit by the monster, you always want health boost. As useful as this skill is, though, it's my least favorite in the entire game, because of how essential it feels. I'm fine with having ways to improve your health in a lot of RPG games, but there's just something about the way that it's done in World that kind of annoys me, where it doesn't in other games. I guess maybe because there's not really any good trade-off for it, and there's no real alternatives either. You kind of just have to have it, which sucks. Hashtag this skill sucks for real for real. Because of this, I give health boost an S++ on practicality, but an F on expression. Recovery up increases the amount of health you get from healing items, not counting things like max potions or mandragoras, which instantly restore you to full health. At level 1, it gives a plus 10% bonus, and at level 3, gives you a plus 30% bonus. Recovery up is a nice comfort skill that lets you get more out of your healing items, so instead of having to use like 2 potions, you'd only need to use 1. Not essential, certainly not bad either though. I'd give it a S+ and a D. Recovery speed increases the rate in which you heal when you have a red bar portion on your health bar, which tends to appear whenever you get hit by a monster, but goes away if you get hit a second time. At level 1, it doubles the speed at which your red gauge heals, and at level 3, quadruples the speed at which it heals. Recovery speed is, meh? I mean, I wouldn't say it's, like, useless, but it's not really something I would ever consider bringing. Oftentimes when you get hit, you go to heal anyways. So waiting on recovery speed to help you would entail running away from a fight in order to try to wait for your health to recover. In that same amount of time, you could have just simply healed your health back anyways. If recovery speed stacked with the Valhazak set, which we'll get to, it would be more viable. I'd give it like a double D on the tiers. Rather than cover all of these individually for my sake, I'm lumping all of the elemental resistance skills into one talking point, since they all do the same thing just for their respective element, with the elements in question being fire, thunder, water, ice, and dragon. At level 1, these skills grant a flat plus 6 point bonus to their respective element resistance, and at level 3 grant a 20 point bonus as well as a plus 10 to your defense. These skills are fine, just situational. I mean, if you're fighting a monster that does a lot of fire damage, for instance, especially if it's chip damage, then you might want to bring fire resistance. Having a score of 20 in a resistance also makes you immune to that element's particular blight, so that's nice. Not bad. Solid. I'd give them like an A for function and a D for expression. Blight resistance gives scaling resistance to all elemental blights, like the ones I just listed. It does not give resistance to ailments like sleep, poison, stun, etc., nor does it increase your defense against any actual elemental damage. At level 1, it reduces all blight duration by 50%, and at level 3 prevents blights from occurring entirely. Personally, I have a big soft spot for this skill. It's kind of cozy, and it removes whatever time you would need to deal with a blight, which also helps a lot if a monster does like thunder, because it's by proxy immune to the stun caused by thunder blight in particular. So I give it like an S and an A. Poison resistance is a skill I don't think I've actually ever used my entire time playing World. At level 1, it reduces the number of times you take damage while poisoned, and at level 3 prevents poison entirely. This isn't really useful. There's not that many monsters that do poison. I guess if you're really having trouble against Rathian or Rathalos, I don't know, I just feel like it's a waste of a slot investment for like no more than 4 monsters. Also, you have antidote, dude. Just hit the chug jug. I mean, come on. 2 fat Fs. Similar to poison, I don't think I've ever used paralysis resistance either. At level 1, it reduces the duration by 30%, and at level 3 prevents paralysis entirely. I mean, just like poison, there probably is an argument to be made for bringing it against a specific monster, like Kieran or something, who can be a pain in the ass to fight. I'll give it a C and a D. While still being situational, blast resistance is probably the most important one in my opinion of the ailment resistances, because of Raging Brachydius in particular. At level 1, it reduces blast blight damage and delays how long you have until you explode. At level 3, it prevents blast blight entirely. You know how many times I've been exploded when fighting Raging Brachydius because he hit me while I had blast blight, or because I didn't notice I had blast blight and didn't fucking roll enough times? So yeah, like, against Raging Brachydius, this is like an S++, but obviously most monsters aren't Raging Brachydius, so I guess it mellows out and gets like another C and a D. I don't know. Always wear blast resistance when fighting Raging Brachydius. That's all I have to say. Stun resistance at level 1 reduces the duration of stun by 60%, and at level 3 prevents it entirely. I think stun resistance is a nice quality of life skill. I suppose there is a real argument to be made about whether or not to take it. I typically don't. Stun builds up as you get hit by monsters, so of course having this skill would reduce or remove one of the punishments for getting hit outside of dying. Now, I'm not a meta guy, but ideally you don't want to be in a position where you get hit at all. Or if you do get hit, you block it or something like that. I mean, this skill's fine. It's not bad. More applicable than most of the resistance skills, since every monster in the game can stun you. I'll give it a B and a C. At level 1, Iron Skin reduces the duration of defense down by 50%, and at max level prevents defense down entirely. Has anyone ever actually used this skill, like actually, sincerely? Please tell me why, if so. I literally don't know why you would bring this. I could justify poison resistance more than I could justify Iron Skin. There's only like 2 monsters in the entire game that do defense down, and that's like Savage Devil Joe and Acidic Glavenus. It's like, whatever, man. I mean, you do what you want. You're a free person, you know, within reason. But like, why? Why? I don't know. I don't really get it. 2 Fs. Effluvia resistance reduces effluvial buildup at level 1 by how much? I don't know. That's just what it says. At level 3, it prevents effluvial blight entirely. There's only 2 monsters in this game where effluvia resistance is useful, and they're both Valhazak. I'm not sure how controversial this is, but I've seen various takes about how both Valhazaks suck, and I just want to say, sue me if you want, but I think Valhazak is a cool fight. Blykefel's okay too, not as cool, but the original is my favorite. I love his designs, his moves are actually pretty fair, if a little basic, and personally, while I don't think every monster should be like this, I am a fan of having some fights where we, the player, need to adapt to the monster, either through skills or the way we play during the hunt. Though for the actual skill itself, I'll give it a D and an F. Critical Eye is a part of what I would call the main DPS skills, though it isn't as good as the others. At level 1, Critical Eye gives a 5% bonus to Affinity, and at level 7 gives a 40% bonus. Now, on the onset, you may think Critical Eye suffers from the same issues I mentioned for attack and defense up, and that's still, like, partially true. The difference is that Affinity is practically always good. Your primary damage boosts in the late game come from having a high Affinity level. Now, Critical Eye is on the lower end of worthwhile Affinity skills. It's like the in-law that you actually kind of like, but you don't go out of your way to invite him to the fishing trip with the bros, unless you, like, really need another guy there. You know, your friend just canceled, and you're like, I guess I could dial up Jacob. You know, he's not going to kill the vibe, but he's not, like, your top guy. What that means in terms of gameplay is that there's better crit skills, okay? If you've got extra slots for Critical Eye, okay, you know, it's fine. I'll give it an S and a B. Just like with the resistances, I'm lumping all of the elemental attack skills together. At level 1, these skills give a flat 30-point bonus to their element attack, and at level 6 give 20% with a flat 100-point bonus. Personally, I hate using elements in Monster Hunter, not because they're not viable or anything. I just find them boring. Like, maybe if elemental weapons actually did something beyond add a different damage number type, I would find them more interesting, but that's not really an issue unique to Monster Hunter itself. I'll give the skills an A and a D. Unlike their resistance versions, ailment attack up skills all do the same things in terms of their leveling. This constitutes poison, paralysis, sleep, and blast. At level 1, these skills grant a plus 5% buildup alongside a flat 10-point bonus. At level 4, they give a 30% buildup with a 10-point bonus. I love ailments. I'm an ailment kind of guy. The idea of being able to inflict a monster with a status is extremely cool to me. As for rankings, the elements are certainly not created equal. Poison gets a C. Don't get me wrong, I want to like Poison, but it just kind of does so little damage for something you might proc 3 or 4 times a hunt. Even with Rathian's armor set bonus, it doesn't feel very useful, though it is thematically pretty cool. I'm not saying you can't or should use it, you know, do what you want. Paralysis gets an S. It's a solid method of crowd control that usually doesn't break up the flow of a hunt. Sleep gets an S+. Now, before any sleep detractors question my decision, hear me out. Putting a monster to sleep lets you heal, sharpen, and if you got a little motion going, place a barrel bomb to wake up a monster, shoot the barrel with a slinger shot. While the monster's standing up, you can clutch claw the monster and then wall bang them, causing them to fall over a second time for more free damage. And then, if the monster's not enraged, you can wall bang them again for another round of free damage. It's just too good. I'm aware that when you play with randoms, sleep is often wasted, okay? Even playing with friends, I'm playing with friends in Rise, and frankly, they kind of suck at noticing sleep sometimes. But the masses not understanding what peak is a common occurrence, okay? You can't let the faults of others detract from the truth how good sleep is. Blast gets an S, whatever. Probably my least favorite ailment from a thematic standpoint, because it's just occasional free extra damage. On an expression ranking, all the ailments get an S+. At level 1, artillery increases the power of gun lance shells, charge blade file attacks, and sticky ammo by 10%, and reduces the cooldown of Wyvern's Fire by 15%. At level 3, it increases attack by 30%, reduces Wyvern's Fire cooldown by 50%, and with the secret skill unlocked, you can reach level 5, which increases attack power by 50% and reduces Wyvern's Fire cooldown by 70%. For the gun lance in particular, I consider artillery blatantly essential. Not so much for the charge blade, and definitely not so for sticky ammo. Artillery in its implementation sucks. In World, gun lance shell damage only scales off artillery and cannot crit. And outside of Fatalis gear, which again is the literal end of the game, there's only 2 armor sets in the entire game that let you reach level 5 in artillery. Given how the point of the gun lance is that it has a gun, it feels like you're gimping yourself if you aren't rocking artillery 5. It's a good example of one skill effectively restricting a weapon's build expression entirely. There aren't different types of shell shots, only damage differences between shell types. And the gun lance in World, while having, melee attacks, obviously, isn't intended to be used for pure melee. Otherwise, just use the regular lance. It's one of many things that make the gun lance feel very samey to play. And that's coming from somebody who loves the gun lance. I give the skill a S++ for function and an F for expression. Horn Maestro is another case of a skill that's meant to just be used with one weapon. Horn Maestro has 2 levels. At level 1, it extends the duration and healing power of your hunting horn melodies. At level 2, it does the same, but better. I don't really have much to say on Horn Maestro. If you're using a hunting horn, you should have it. If you're not, then don't. Just don't. S++ and a C. Special ammo boost is okay. At level 1, it increases the power of special bowgun ammo, Dragon Piercer, and Thousand Dragons by 10%, and goes up to 20% at level 2. If you want more damage out of the attacks it gives, take it. If you don't, then don't. I'll give it an A and an A because the various ammo boosting skills do help in developing a unique, specialized identity. Stamina Thief, I can't really give a good opinion on. I've never personally used it because outside of ammo types, I never really cared to try to exhaust a monster. Plus, exhaustion in my experience only procs like once or twice per hunt. At level 1, it increases exhaust power by 20%. At level 3, it gives 40%. And with the secret skill unlock, it goes up to 60% at level 5. In the interest of being fair to a skill I haven't used but can't really confidently say it's useless, I'll give it a B and an A. Quick Sheath, or Quick Sheet, as I wrote in the script, slightly increases weapon sheathing speed at level 1, and greatly increases it at level 3. Technically, Quick Sheath can work for any weapon, but the arguably biggest beneficiaries of the skill are the longsword and the greatsword, since quick sheath lets you do the sheath parry move quicker for the longsword, and the greatsword has bad maneuverability in World, so being able to put the weapon away quicker helps recover from missing your TCS for the 50th time. Personally, I like rocking quick sheath on a support-focused heavy bowgun build, since if you're rocking wide range, you can put your gun away quicker to help heal your team. I'll give quick sheath 2 S's. Now I know I've been talking like my regular self for most of these, but don't worry, I'll spice it up for you. I'll do a little ASMR for Fortify. Fortify increases your attack and defense up by 10% and 15% respectively every time you faint in a... Okay, I can't do it, dude. I'm sorry. I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy talking about these skills, man. See, yeah, you faint up to 2 times, you get a buff with Fortify, dude. Technically, you could run Fortify with any loadout, and if you tend to cart once or even twice during quest, it's not the worst idea. It's a 1-tier slot, skill, whatever. It is free damage and defense after all, so typically the way Fortify is intentionally used is for speedrunning loadouts, where you purposefully make yourself faint twice at the start of a hunt for free buffs. I certainly would not run Fortify intentionally in multiplayer, unless you want everyone to hate you for wasting 2 carts, but it's a pretty cool skill, so I'll give it an S and an S+. Okay, don't worry, I won't ASMR you for this one, but I'll Southern Charm you. Hunger resistance extends the time you have until your stamina bar cap gets depleted, starting at 50% at level 1, and preventing the cap from draining entirely at level 3. I don't really see the point in this skill. I mean, stamina cap doesn't drain like that during hunts anyways. And I mean, shit, you got so many rations, you'll never even worry about your damn stamina cap. I give it 2 Fs, Bo. Did you like that? I got vocal range, you know. I'm a quirky guy. I'm a quirk chungus. I'm on page 12 of 48, dude. This script. Like I said, this took so much longer than I thought it would be. I thought this would be like a 20-page thing. There's so many skills in this game. Not complaining. I'm happy to do it, but there's just a lot. There's a lot. I'm just sitting here with my laptop, reading them all off. In the script, I mean. I don't have the wiki up. Resuscitate. Resuscitate's kind of crazy. For 1 point, and as a tier 1 slot, you get max evade window. Yes, max. And max constitution whenever you are suffering from any blight. The issue is probably that the usage varies a lot on what weapon you're using, what monsters you're fighting, and what blight you've been affected by. In World, there's no way to self-inflict any blights that I'm aware of. But for a tier 1 slot, it honestly isn't that terrible, especially if you're going up against a monster that inflicts a blight that isn't too bad to begin with. This might be good against a monster that does, like, Ice Blight, actually, since the Constitution would help offset the stamina penalty that Ice Blight gives. I'll give it an A and an S+. Guard is pretty self-explanatory. It lets you guard better with weapons that have the ability to guard. At level 1, it very slightly reduces the impact of guarded attacks, and at level 5, massively reduces the impact, and reduces the stamina used while guarding attacks by 50%. Obviously, guard is the most useful on lance and gun lance. Has some use on the charge blade and the greatsword. I don't really bother using it on the sword and shield. Guard can also work on your heavy bowgun if you have a shield augment on it, which is how I like playing it anyways. It is quite funny stacking max shield, max guard, and just kind of face tanking the monster with the bowgun. I'll give it an S+ on usefulness, but I wouldn't really say it makes your build more expressive. It's just kind of, if you're using a shield weapon, you want your shield to not suck. So I'll give it a C there. Tool Specialist reduces the cooldown of all tools by 10% at level 1, 30% at level 3, and with the secret skill, 50% at level 5. While I didn't use it much myself, the idea is pretty cool. It would let you spam quicker tools more, while reducing the long wait for stuff like the Temporal Mantle or Rocksteady Mantle. There's probably some good room for build shenanigans with it. I'll give it an S and an S+. Item Prolonger extends the duration of some item effects. I'm not really sure which items Item Prolonger works with entirely, but I know it works on things like Dash Juice and the powder buffs. At level 1, it extends item duration by 10%, and at level 3, extends it by 50%. I've also never used Item Prolonger. I suppose you could try to have a build that utilizes the powders and juice more. Even with the max buff, I don't feel like the items would last long enough for the skill to feel that useful. Maybe I'm wrong. It would also be nice if the game told you what counts for the skill. I'm aware Japanese developers love vague skill descriptions. I've played Monster Hunter, I've played FromSoft games, but for something like this, I think it's kind of important to know, like, do smoke bombs or poison bombs count? Do they last longer? Not that it would make the skill that much more viable, but it would be nice to know what exactly counts. I'll give it a D for usefulness and an A for expression. Now this is a proper skill, okay? I love wide range. It's easily one of my favorite skills in the entire game. At level 1, wide range shares the effects of consumable items that you use with nearby hunters and palicos, with 33% of their full effect. At level 5, the range at which your item affects proc increases massively, and items have full effectiveness on those you share them with. Wide range is so fun for me, not only because it has some great utility, being able to keep your teammates' health and stamina and blights cleared up during a hunt, but because it also is one of the few skills in the game that actually changes your role in some way. Normally, your playstyle is only determined by your weapon and what type of damage you're doing. Wide range lets you actually play as a semi-dedicated support hunter. It's so fun actually being able to monitor everyone's health. It makes you pay attention to things you normally don't really care about. And wide range has great synergy with stuff like Free Meal and Mushroommancer. Of course, if you're using a hunting horn, it's even better. It all just kind of flows nice. I give wide range the coveted S++ ranking. And before I forget, it's important to note that wide range does not work with items that are already spread to other hunters, like the powders, or items that instantly heal you to full health, like the max potions. Another one of my favorite skills, Speed Eating, increases the speed at which you use consumable items, slightly increasing the speed at level 1 and greatly increasing the speed at level 3. Speed Eating is one of, if not the best, quality of life skill for me, where using a potion can take a good couple of seconds regularly. Speed Eating lets you scarf down one in like a second. Paired with Recovery Up, this lets you hit the Chug Jug in battle at a moment's notice, so that you can have more uptime in the fight. As mentioned previously, you can pair this with like wide range or free meal, so I give Speed Eating 2 S+. At level 1, free meal gives you a 25% chance every time you use a consumable item, barring powders, to not actually use up the item itself while still gaining the item's effects. With the secret skill active, you can get it to 75% at level 3. This means that every time you use something like a max potion, you have a 75% chance to not use up the potion when healing yourself. Free meal is great if you're someone who gets hit a lot, like me, and want to have more efficient rates when it comes to burning through items. Again, you can pair it with free meal, or you can pair it with Speed Eating, Mushroommancer, which, if you pair it with Mushroommancer, to skip ahead a bit, lets you consume, Mandragoras at max level, which act as max potions. This means you get like 10 max potions you can carry, on top of the regular 2 you can carry, and the ancient potion. So you have 13 max heal items on you, and with max free meal, you always have a 75% chance to not consume any of those items when you use it. Now, whether this is optimal, I don't know. I mean, I used it for Fatalis, and it saved my ass there a number of times. It certainly is fun, though, so I'll give it 2 S+s. Another QOL tool, Speed Sharpening, removes 1 tick of sharpening needed per level. So at level 1, you need to sharpen your weapon 1 less time during the animation before it's fully sharpened. And at level 3, you only need to play the animation 1 time. Now, personally, I like Speed Sharpening. I don't actively build with it in mind, but there are some armor sets that give you some decent points in it that I use. So I tend to add the extra level or 2, if it makes sense. Technically, Speed Sharpening is never relevant if you have those fish scales that instantly sharpen your weapon, which pretty much does the same thing as Speed Sharpening. However, as much as I love grinding in World, I've done all the fishing quests, every event quest, every hunt, all the endemic life quests. I just don't care for fishing at all, so I never have those scales on me. Because of this, I'll give Speed Sharpening an A and a B, but you could always just ignore it if you like fishing. Bombardier increases the power of your explosives, which I'm pretty sure only applies to the various barrel bombs in the game. At level 1, it gives a 10% damage bonus, at level 3, 30%, and with the secret skill, gives 50% at level 5. Bombardier is cool, though I can't say I've ever built for it in mind. It certainly is possible to make a build that uses barrel bombs fairly often, though. Normally, you would use them when a monster goes to sleep for the extra damage on wake up, but bringing like a paralysis weapon would let you spam 2 barrels while the monster's too busy tweaking. In fact, I have done something like that in my current Rise playthrough, where I made a whole radial wheel setup just for insta-crafting and placing barrel bombs. Definitely not meta, but it's pretty fun. I don't like that it has a secret skill though, that sucks a lot. Very cringe, very gross. I'll give it a B for function and an S+ for expression. I sort of already talked about this by proxy, but Mushroomancer lets you consume mushrooms to gain various potion effects. At level 1, you can digest blue mushrooms and toadstools, which act as a regular potion and an immunizer, respectively. At level 2, you can digest. I can speak, I promise. You can digest nitro shrooms and parashrooms, which function as demon drug and armor skin. At level 3, you can digest mandragoras, devil's blight, and excite shrooms. Mandragoras are max potions, devil's blight is dash juice, and excite shrooms give you a random potion effect. Technically speaking, Mushroomancer is purely a QOL skill. It doesn't give you anything that you can't already obtain, like I've stated. However, consider this. It's fucking awesome, dude. I'm a mushroom guy. I'm a little shroomy guy. Want to give me some mushrooms? I'm a little tasty. I'm a shroomer. Okay? I give Mushroomancer an S and an S++. At level 1, Slinger Capacity increases the amount of Slinger ammo you hold for ammo collected from the ground or plants. At level 3, it increases the loading capacity for ammo dropped by monsters. With the Secret skill unlock at level 5, it increases the loading capacity for all Slinger ammo. For a while, I really wondered what the point of Slinger Capacity was. Like, sure, having a few more Slinger bombs is okay, but is it really worth building for? Thankfully, I ended up discovering 2 weapons that can actually benefit from this skill. The first is the bow. My favorite bow build actually became all about spamming the Thousand Dragons move, which, for those who haven't played the bow in Iceborne, is a close range move that fires an arrow in addition to all of your Slinger ammo as arrows at a monster. On top of other skills, Thousand Dragons scales its damage off of how much Slinger ammo you have equipped. So I'm sure you can guess. That means that the extra ammo granted by Slinger Capacity also equates to more Thousand Dragons ammo, which equates to more damage. I wouldn't call it a meta skill by any means, but it does let me play a really fun bow playstyle that can get some good damage off. The other weapon is the Dual Blades, which has a unique Slinger Burst dodge move it can do. More Slinger ammo means more dodges, and if you have damaging Slinger ammo, it lets you continue attacking while evading away from a hit. Not as impactful as the bow though, but still pretty cool. I'd give Slinger Capacity an A and an S+. Entomologist is a gathering skill. It exists purely to boost gathering needs. At level 1, it increases the chance that your attacks against an insect won't obliterate the poor fucking thing. At level 3, it guarantees that the insect will leave its nice corpse behind. I don't have anything to say on any of the gathering skills, really, so I'll just say they're gonna more or less get the same ranking. Use them when you need them, don't when you don't. S and an F. Botanist gives you 1 extra herb when you gather them at level 1, and gives you an extra herb, fruit, nut, seed, insect, or mushroom item per gather at level 4. Geologist at level 1 lets you gather 1 more time at bone piles, and at level 3 lets you gather 1 more time at bone piles, at gathering points, and at mining outcrops. Heavy artillery increases the damage of artillery weapons, aka the ballistas, cannons, and that big wyvern shot you use against Volcana in that one fight. I don't know if it actually increases the damage of the Dragonator. I don't think it does. Unlike Rise, there's not really a lot of fights in the world where this is that useful. I mean, yeah, you have the arena quest, and I've used heavy artillery there, but a lot of the tougher fights don't have any artillery. Except for one, Fatalis. Heavy artillery is a godsend against Fatalis, actually, don't at me. There's fairly easy to use cannons on the map, a roaming ballista in stages 2 and 3, and some regular ballistas, but I mean, ballistas suck, so who cares? Whatever uselessness heavy artillery does have gets totally flipped around for the Fatalis fight. It's definitely worth taking there, and it's not hard to slot in, as you can get the 2 levels for it with 1 tier 4 deco. Oh yeah, the actual skill. At level 1, it increases damage by 50%, and at level 2, 100%. If the Fatalis fight did not exist, I would give this a D or even an F, but the fight does exist, so I'll give it a B and a D. At level 1, Palico Rally increases your Palico attack power by 5%, and at level 5, increases it by 25%. I like Palico Rally, it's pretty fun. If you're gonna run it, which if you do, please run it in either solo or playing with just 1 person, otherwise it's useless. The best gadget for your Palico to have is the... I'm blanking on the name, dude. The Molotov cannon thing, whatever. The stuff with the fire and the firework launcher. It's not going to carry you or anything, but your Palico can actually get some decent damage in that way. So, I'll give it an A and an S++. Divine Blessing is a skill that gives a percentage-based damage reduction that can proc anytime you take damage. At level 1, it reduces damage taken by 15%, at level 3, 50%, and at the secret skill unlock, reduces damage taken by 60% and becomes easier to activate at level 5. While I wouldn't say Divine Blessing is a literal essential skill like Health Boost, it gets pretty close. You don't need to take it on every build, but there's no build you could make that wouldn't benefit from having it. Even 1 point in Divine Blessing can still save you from getting carded. I wouldn't really say it's expressive as a skill, so I'll give it an S++ and an F. I've never used Stealth. I don't even know when you would use Stealth. If you were rocking a Gathering loadout and wanted monsters to leave you alone more, I guess, but even then you could just poop pod them. At level 1, Stealth makes it slightly easier for monsters to lose sight of you, and at level 3, makes it much easier. World doesn't have a sneak attack mechanic or anything like Wilds, so there's not even like a semblance of guerrilla tactics build you could make with this. I'm not even sure that it would feel that unique to have either, since in solo you'd want to just run away anyways or use the Ghillie Mantle, and if you were using this in co-op you'd never notice the effects because the monster would just target someone else. 2 Fs. Wind proof, more like wind poop, dude. Like total doo-doo fart. Total doo-doo fart ass. At level 1, windproof slightly reduces the effects of wind pressure, and at level 5, yes, level 5, it negates all wind pressure. This skill sucks buns, dude. Like, so many monsters don't even have attacks that cause wind pressure, or if they do, they don't even do them enough for wind pressure to even matter. There's only one fight where you think you would want windproof, and that's against, well, maybe two, Kushala and Lanustra. And if you've played World, you know that windproof doesn't even work against Kushala, and I don't even think it works against Lanustra. If you want windproof that actually works, you have to wear the Kushala set. I don't even know what the point of this skill is, dude. Fucking F. F, 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 F. Cringe. Go away. Sorry, just, you know, I get reminded of Kushala and Lanustra, and I just get a little cuckoo, okay? Apologies. Anyways, Tremor Resistance at level 1, Tremor Resistance nullifies minor ground tremors, and at level 3, nullifies major and minor ground tremors. Unlike Windproof, there's at least some marginal value for taking Tremor Resistance against certain monsters, like Devil Joe, or Safi Jiva, or Diablos. Still not super great, though. I'll give it a C and a D. Non-elemental boost does what it says on the tin. It boosts the attack power of non-elemental weapons. So, if you're rocking a non-elemental weapon and you have a slot to spare, it's fine. Extra damage, I guess. A and a D. Weakness Exploit is the most efficient affinity skill in the game. At level 1, attacks that hit weak spots have an extra 10% affinity, with an extra 5% on wounded parts. At level 3, attacks that hit weak spots have a 30% more affinity, with an extra 20% on wounded parts. That means that with max weakness exploit, attacking a wounded weak spot gives you an extra 50% affinity chance every time you hit. And if you have a baseline affinity of like 50%, you'll crit 100% of the time when attacking those spots. Crits are generally the best way to do extra damage in World, so Weakness Exploit gets an S++ for utility. But given that almost every loadout is going to rock at least one level in this skill, I give it an F for expression. At level 1, crit boost critical damage by 30% and 40% at level 3. It's worth having at least one level in this, just like Weakness Exploit. It gets an S++ and an F. Not much to say on this one. Bow Charge Plus gives you one extra charge level on the bow. Bow skill, good for the bow. Surprising. S and a C. Mind's Eye / Ballistics prevents your attacks from being deflected, and shortens the distance before ammo and arrows reach max power. I wouldn't say you need to rock Mind's Eye, but it's nice for weapons that don't have great sharpness levels, or if you're rocking Bludgeoner. I've never really used Ballistics, so I'll just give this S and a B. Focus increases the fill rates and charge rates for charge attacks. So, for example, your longsword bar fills up quicker, and your greatsword charge attacks would charge faster. At level 1, it increases the gauge fill rate by 5% and charge speed by 5%. At level 3, it increases the gauge rate by 20% and the charge attack speed by 15%. Focus is really good on the longsword and the greatsword respectively. It's also kind of good on the switch axe as well. It's pretty fun using it with the greatsword in particular because it allows you to be a lot more reactive. Plus, faster attacks mean overall more damage. I'll give it 2 SSSSSSS. Power Prolonger increases the duration of the amped state for the longsword, dual blades, insect glaive, switch axe, and charge blade. At level 1, it does so slightly, and at level 3, it does so greatly, as it says in the description. Similar to Focus, this lets you benefit more from your weapon's charged state, so it gets the same ranking. Partbreaker gives 10, 20, and 30% more part damage for each of its free levels. It's not bad at all. I wouldn't personally say I'm too crazy on it, as a lot of monsters don't seem to feel that different when you break their parts, with a few exceptions. It'll let you begin benefiting more from weakness exploit quicker though, or if you need to farm a drop that comes from a broken part, so that's cool. 2S. Slugger increases your stun damage, starting at a 20% bonus at level 1, 40% bonus at level 3, and a 60% bonus at level 5 with the secret skill unlock. It's important to note, not all weapons deal stun damage. The two main weapons that can deal it are the hunting horn and the hammer, which makes sense considering the hammer is just a big rock on a stick, and the hunting horn is also just a big rock on a stick, but with a bunch of holes carved into it and a whistle taped to the bottom. Stun is a okay crowd control tool, but of course, like every CC tool in World, the more you trigger it, the less effective it gets. That's often a point people use against stuff like Slugger, sleep weapons, etc. But honestly, I've never really felt that the argument holds too much weight. Yes, realistically, you will have less DPS by investing in Slugger, but having more times where you can totally prevent the monster from doing anything is always beneficial in my opinion. Especially if it's against a monster you really struggle to fight against. More time to get free hits on a monster is more effective than having higher DPS if you can't capitalize on your higher DPS. Plus, it's pretty cool in co-op when you're the only one really rocking a stun weapon. Makes you feel like a epic chud burger. I'll give it an S and an S+. Oh, airborne. Holy cortisol spike, dude. This shit is getting an F. Just gonna get straight to it. Airborne increases your jump attack power by 30%. Now, if you're an insect glaive user, you might think this would be an awesome damage upgrade, since as far as movement goes, you could say that your character is kind of jumping in midair, and the skill is literally called airborne. But no, it only works on ledge jumping attacks. I mean, I guess if you're banking on spam jump attacking a monster off a ledge, you'll find a use for this, but that's about it. 2 big Fs. Latent Power is a skill that gives you an affinity and stamina usage buff when one of 2 conditions are fulfilled. A, you need to take a total of 180 damage, or B, you need to wait 300 seconds or 5 minutes. At level 1, it increases affinity by 10% and reduces stamina usage by 30% while active. At level 5, it increases affinity by 50% and reduces stamina usage by 50%. With the secret skill unlock, your affinity goes up to 60%, and now you only need to take 120 damage to trigger the effect instead of 180. I like latent power as a concept, this sort of burst periods of damage and stamina reduction, but in execution for World, at least, it sucks. It is actually kind of better in Rise. It just doesn't trigger often enough in World. And if we're talking raw damage numbers, there's so many better options. It's entirely possible that if a hunt lasts 20 minutes, you'll spend 10 of those minutes without latent power active at all, which means it's doing literally nothing for you. So I'd like it more if it could proc better. In Rise, if you continue to attack a monster, it decreases the time it takes for latent power to trigger, which is nice. But in World, it doesn't do any of that in World, so I'll give it a B and an S. At level 1, while a monster is enraged, Agitator grants a +4 to attack and a 5% bonus to affinity. At level 5, it grants 20 to attack and 10% to affinity. With the secret skill unlock, it gives 28 to attack and 20% to affinity at level 7. Pre-Iceborne, Agitator was good. Post-Iceborne, it's one of the best skills in the game. With the addition of the Clutch Claw in Iceborne, you can force a monster to be enraged at any time, which means the Agitator is going to be procced for most of the hunt, since you'll be using the Clutch Claw mechanics anyways, given how important they are in the DLC. Most builds will benefit from Agitator. In fact, I don't think there actually is a build that would not benefit from Agitator. I think I'd give it an S++, but for how basic it is, I'll give it a D for expression. At level 1, Peak Performance, or PP, gives you 5 extra attack when your health is full, and at level 3, gives 20. I'm not sure how good or bad PP can be because I've never personally had it, but as far as Peak Performance goes, I'm not really sure there either, because I've never used it. I know I'm not going to reliably stay at full health long enough or consistently enough to get the most out of this skill. It's probably pretty good on a bowgun, maybe a healing hunting horn. I'll give it an A and a C. While at or under 35% health, at level 1, Heroics will grant you 50 points of defense. At level 5, it'll grant you 100 points of defense and increase your attack by 15%. With the secret skill unlock, level 7 gives you 40% attack and increases defense by 150 points. I find the idea of Heroics interesting, but if you're looking at it and believing the extra defense it adds will let you tank a hit while at low health, you are very sorely mistaken. Heroics pretty much functions as a hardcore version of Peak Performance, where instead of needing to avoid getting hit to stay at full health for your buff, you now need to avoid getting hit because taking one hit will likely just cart you. I've played with Heroics a bit, it is really strong, but unless you're like really confident you're not going to get hit, I'd probably not recommend it. I'll still give it an S and an S+ though. At level 1, Resentment grants you a 5-point bonus to your attack whenever you have a red portion, aka recoverable health, of your health bar. At level 5, this bonus goes up to 25 points. Normally, I would consider Resentment kind of mid. Again, considering that you normally want to heal back the recoverable health. Or, as I've stated, a monster hits you a second time and then your red health goes by anyways. However, and we'll talk about it more later, with the Safi Jiva armor set bonus, which, to jump ahead, drains your health while attacking, you can practically always have Resentment active. I've never built for Resentment, but I usually have a few points put into it on my Safi sets, so it's a nice bonus. I'll give it an S and an A. At level 1, Maximum Might gives you 10% affinity, providing your stamina bar is full for a length of time I don't know the specifics of. I think a few seconds, something like that. At level 3, the affinity bonus goes up to 30%. With the secret skill unlock at level 5, Maximum Might procs as soon as your stamina bar is full, and increases your affinity by 40%. Some melee weapons can probably work okay with Maximum Might, especially those that don't necessarily need to dodge a lot. Maybe the longsword because it has counters. The biggest beneficiary for Maximum Might, in my opinion, is easily the heavy bowgun. You're not moving a lot with that thing anyways, so it's almost a constant 40% bonus to your affinity, which is quite nice. I would imagine it makes you a bit more stamina aware if you were using this on a melee weapon, which would add another, if small, layer to the gameplay. I'll give it an S and a B. Affinity sliding increases your affinity while sliding. Crazy information, I know. The affinity bonus is 30%, and the bonus lasts for a short time after the slide is finished. While the skill does have the same issue as Jumpmaster, which is that it's very situational and not super beneficial, it can be pretty fun to rock this on the hammer, since the hammer has the funny sliding attack anyways. It does feel more fun than Jumpmaster, so I'll give it like a C and an A. Marathon Runner reduces how much stamina is depleted during continuous actions. A continuous action is anything that consistently drains stamina, such as sprinting or charging a bow shot. If an action instantly takes a chunk of your stamina bar, such as dodging, then it is not affected by Marathon Runner. At level 1, stamina depletion is reduced by 15%, and at level 3, that goes up to 50%. Marathon Runner, in my experience, is really only good if you're rocking dual blades, since it reduces how much stamina you use during demon mode. I'll give it like an A and a C. Constitution affects instant stamina usage. At level 1, it reduces stamina usage by 10%, and at level 5, 50%. Constitution benefits any weapon that you need to dodge frequently with. So I'll give it the same ranking that I did Marathon Runner. Stamina Surge increases the speed at which you recover stamina, starting at 10% at level 1 and 30% at level 3. Also good for weapons that use stamina a lot. Also pairs nicely with max level, maximum might, since being able to recover your stamina more quickly means you can maintain the skill bonus more. We'll do another A and a C. Evade window does what it says. At level 1, it slightly increases the iframes of your dodges, and at level 5, massively increases said iframes. Generally, I recommend having 3 levels of evade window on most builds. Fuck. Dude, I'm just realizing, evade window is literally the adaptability stat from Dark Souls 2 that everyone hated, but I guess it's okay in Monster Hunter. I hate evade window, personally, but whatever. Yeah, it's worth having 3 levels in it so you can dodge most attacks with good timing. Unleveled evasion feels just terrible, like flat out. You don't really need evade window on something like the lance or the gun lance since you can just block. But other than those 2 weapons and maybe the heavy bowgun, if you have a shield, I consider this skill to be pretty much essential. At least by the time you get to the DLC. You could make it through low and high rank without this. Once you get to Iceborne, I feel like you kind of need to have it for some of these fights. So, usefulness, S++, build expression, gets an F. Evade Extender, unlike Evade Window, does not increase your iframes. Instead, it increases how far your character moves when you are dodging, slightly increasing the distance at level 1, and greatly doing so at level 3. This is useful to have for a number of reasons. For example, if a monster does an attack that does lingering damage or has multiple hits occur at once, max evade window won't protect you from that attack. You could very well dodge the initial hit, but still be in the radius of the lingering attack. Or if a monster's doing a quick combo, you could dodge the first hit and then get hit by the second because you didn't move out the way. With Evade Extender, it becomes possible to completely move out of the way of a monster's attacks or hitboxes. It's also good for weapons that have really bad mobility. Shout out Gun Lance, where it's pretty much fucking essential because that thing can't move at all. So, Evade Extender, just good for being able to move further when you dodge. So, it's kind of a personal preference, though, between levels 2 and 3. With max level, you can end up dodging too far and end up dodging back into an attack. So, it's all up to personal preference and what weapon you use. I'll give it an S+ and a C. Not much to say on this next one. Guard Up lets you block certain attacks that are normally unblockable. What attacks are normally unblockable, you ask? I don't know. I just take the skill when playing Lance or Gun Lance, so S and F, I guess. Protective Polish prevents your weapon from losing sharpness for a minute after sharpening your weapon. It's pretty good for weapons that don't have super great levels of higher tier sharpness, or weapons that can burn through sharpness rather quickly. I can't say I've ever made a point of bringing Protective Polish, but it's not bad. S and a D. I don't even want to talk about these next 2, dude. Like, I'm looking at my cat right now, and he's sleeping and chilling, and that's much more interesting than talking about Heat Guard and Cold Proof. Heat Guard does something. Prevents environmental damage when you're in a lava area, and then Cold Proof prevents environmental debuffing when you're in cold areas. What's the point of these skills, dude? Every time you do a mission in Elder's Recess, you get Cool Drink. Anytime you do a mission in the Hoarfrost, you get a hot drink. Like, what's the point? Actually useless. I don't I'm molding, I'm sieving. I can't cope. I don't know what the point of these skills is, dude. Who's used these? Who's used these? Okay? Nobody. Nobody. Nobody's used these. Whatever. They suck. F. Earplugs, which is the next one I'm covering, reduces the effects of monster roars, slightly reducing the effects of weak monster roars at level 1, and completely preventing weak and strong roars from affecting you at level 5. Earplugs is a decent QOL skill. It isn't going to directly increase your damage or anything, but for monsters that have longer roars or spam roars, which Visarios isn't in this game, sadly, that would be cool. He would be a prime example, actually, because his roars last like 50 freaking years. But if someone spams roars like Rathian or Rathalos, having earplugs means you can just ignore them and keep attacking while they're molding. So, pretty cool. I'll give it an S and an S. At level 1, Flinch Free prevents knockbacks and increases some Kinsect extract effects. At level 3, it prevents knockbacks and tripping and further increases extract effects. Knockbacks do not refer to the attacks that send you flying. A knockback is whenever your character gets slightly staggered while still standing. Where you'll actually see this occur the most is in co-op, where if you're playing with someone who's using an insect glaive or a longsword, God help you, because you're going to get hit every 5 seconds and like die of AIDS. Your partner will be more dangerous to your health than the actual monster. So, thanks. Shout out longsword and insect glaive users. We didn't have shockproof in World, so, but even then they don't even use the damn thing. Whatever. Tripping refers to when your character actually trips down and quickly stands back up, which normally happens when a monster has a sprinting animation with a hitbox attached, like Barrioff's sprint or side jumps. The extract effect buff for the Kinsect gives you 1 level in earplugs, windproof, and tremor resistance while the triple extract buff is active, with each skill getting an extra level per level of flinch free. So if you had 2 levels in earplugs and 3 levels in flinch free, getting the triple extract buff would grant you functionally 5 levels of earplugs while your triple extract buff is active, which is pretty cool, and I actually didn't know that, like, at all. I mean, I've used Insect Glaive, but not like that, so it's pretty dope. If you're playing multiplayer frequently, it can be worth having 1 level in flinch free just to stop your attacks from being canceled by other players. Beyond that, it just depends on if you want what it gives. Oops. It's not bad, but it's not too crazy. I'll give it an S and an A. Elderseal boost ups a dragon elemental weapon's Elderseal level by 1 and makes dragon ammo more effective at applying Elderseal. I'm not really sure how effective Elderseal is overall. It always seems like a joke. It's supposed to be able to sort of stagger an Elder Dragon and knock them out of their amped state, but half the time, even if I think it triggers, they can just reactivate it after a couple seconds, and also dragon ammo sucks ass, whoever uses dragon ammo. I think it's okay to use Elderseal against Safi Jiva. I'm not sure. I'll just give it a B and a D. I'm lumping all of the coding functionality skills together. These are Poison, Paralysis, Sleep, and Blast. The functionality skills let you use whatever respective ailment they're for as a coding on a bow that doesn't have access to it by default. So if you're using a bow that doesn't have blast coding and you want blast coding with it, you would take the blast functionality skill. Whatever pros and cons each of the elements have on their own still remain true here as well. So I'll just give all these an A and a C. Handicraft increases the sharpness of a weapon, starting with a plus 10 point bonus at level 1 and a 50 point bonus at level 5. I've never used Handicraft, but I suppose it would be good to squeeze more higher tier sharpness out of a weapon. So, Protective Polish is maybe more efficient though. I'll say an A and a D. Free element slash ammo up, or foe, as I'm going to call it, has two parts: the free element and the ammo up. The ammo up portion is quicker to cover, so I'll do that first. At level 1, it increases the clip. Yes, clip. Don't at me for not saying magazine. I don't care. I don't give a darn. The game says clip. I will say clip. It's not my fault. Take it up with Commando Store or whatever. Okay? Clip size for some ammos on your bowguns. At level 3, it increases the clip size for most ammo on your bowguns. Pretty self-explanatory, but as for which ammos are affected for each level and how much the clip size increases, I don't really know. As for the actual free element part, I'm honestly really torn on this skill. World has a fair number of weapons that have a hidden element, which is usually an ailment, but whatever. Without any levels in foe, the weapon in question will not utilize that element at all, and will function as a raw weapon. With one level, the element will be active, but only do 33% of its total number, and at max level it will do the full amount. I think foe is nice in the sense that it technically adds more raw weapon options, but annoying in the sense that some weapons require foe if you want access to a specific ailment. Take the Charge Blade for instance. If I want to use the sleep ailment, I have to have foe active, which is annoying since it requires free levels of investment, since there isn't really any point in using anything less than the full amount of the respective ailment. On the other hand, hidden element weapons tend to have more deco slots, which means that if you aren't planning on using the hidden element, you can fit more skills into your loadout. I think I would be less torn if every element and status had at least one option for each weapon that didn't require foe. Granted, this is less annoying than something like Wilds, which, until you get to Artian weapons, Artian? Who cares? Does not possess a hunting horn that does sleep. At least with the usage of hidden element, you can take a tree that normally would not have an element at all, and add a hidden element to it that can be used by the player if they want to. Like, the Brute Tigrex weapons, which have sleep, even though Brute Tigrex doesn't do sleep at all. But they're a hidden element, so if you just want his weapons for raw, you can use them like that. But if you want another sleep weapon option, there you go. Overall, I'd give it an S and an A. Just like with the functionality skills, I'm grouping all of the shot buff skills together as well. These consist of normal shot, piercing shots, and spread/power shot. At level 1, these skills slightly buff their respective ammo/arrow type damage, and at level 2, greatly buff said damage. You pretty much just use these based on what ammo or arrow attacks you plan on primarily using. If you're gonna use piercing ammo, take piercing shots. If you want to focus on normal arrow shots, then you just take normal shots. I'll give them a S and a B. Coalescence triggers whenever you recover from a blight. At level 1, you gain a 12-point attack bonus, a 30-point elemental attack bonus, and 5% more status buildup. At level 3, the attack bonus goes up to 18, elemental up to 90, and status up to 15%. Coalescence is cool, but just like Resuscitate, it's really situational depending on what monster you're fighting and, how often they actually inflict blights. And again, there's no way to self-inflict a blight in World. So, good buff, situational. I'll give it 2 S's. Clutch Claw boost allows Clutch Claw moves to more easily. Dude, I'm going insane. Easily wound monsters. What that means is that some weapons by default don't actually tenderize a monster if only one Clutch Claw attack, but with this skill equipped, they would. Additionally, Slinger ammo drops a bit more frequently from Clutch Claw attacks. I think this skill is fine if you're using a weapon that can't tenderize a monster in one hunt, just because it's kind of annoying to have to tenderize a monster twice in order to get it off. Yeah. A and a C. I really, what, I don't know what Capcom's thinking for some of these skills. aquatic polar mobility. You know, like, why? Some of these skills aren't even like, oh, that's an interesting meme. You know, that's a little funny. This is stupid. Fucking no one's using this. I mean, at level 1, you can move normally in water and deep snow. And at level 2, you get extra evade window in water and deep snow. And then at level 3, you have an even bigger evade window bonus. It's like, there's barely any areas in the game where this would matter. What, when you're fighting Geratodus in the cuck corner? In the waste? That he never leaves? I mean, like, okay. I mean, whatever. Okay. Capcom should have a dedicated, like, 2 or 3 skill slots that you just always have access to, no matter what you're wearing, that are dedicated for dumb doo-doo fart skills like this, just so you can say you have them. That would actually be kind of cool, because then you could have a reason to put these on. But, they don't have that, so, two Fs. Intimidator discourages smaller monsters from attacking you at level 1, and prevents them from attacking you at level 3. It's another nothing burger skill. Could be okay if you put it on a gathering loadout, I guess. It would be cool to have a monster fight that actually summons small monsters, not counting the Leshen, where wearing Intimidator would be a good way to make a harder stage of the fight easier. We don't have anything like that though, so I'll just give it a C and a B. At level 1, Critical Draw gives all draw attacks plus 30% affinity, and at level 3, this bonus goes up to 100%. Technically, you could use this if any melee weapon, but it seems pretty obviously meant for the longsword and maybe the greatsword, either to buff your live slashes or let your initial charge attack have more affinity. I'll say 2 A's. Master Mounter makes it easier to mount monsters. I don't know how much. I never used this skill. D and a B. Capacity Boost increases your gun lance and charge blade shell/file capacity by 1. Useful for burst firing and SAED spam. Not much else to say. A and a C. Pro Transporter makes you move faster when carrying big items like egg. I probably should have used it during that one annoying delivery quest in Iceborne. CF. I'm gonna rapid fire some of these next few ones. Master Gatherer speeds up gathering time and stops you from getting knocked back while gathering. SF. Honey Hunter gives you more honey per honey. SF. Carving Pro gives you no knockback when carving. FF. Speed Crawler increases movement speed while crouching. FC. Jump Master prevents knockback during jumps, as in the ledge jumps. FF. Survival Expert gives you health when using Spore Puffs or Wiggly Liches, which are the interactables you can find in the environment. At level 1, using either item gives you 50 health, and at level 3, the bonus goes up to 100. This is actually an interesting skill on paper, but it's not going to matter 99% of the time. There may be one moment or two when you're near one of these interactables and can use it for some extra health, but this obviously pales in comparison to any of the other heal boosting skills. It would be unique to have though, so I'll give it a D and an A. Cliffhanger decreases stamina usage when invading on walls and moving while mounting a monster. I got nothing to say. FF. Forager's Luck makes rare gathering points respawn more. Probably good if you're gathering. CF. Detector shows rare gathering points on the wildlife map. Probably good again for gathering. AF. Offensive Guard gives you an attack boost whenever you perfect guard an attack. This applies to any weapon that has the ability to guard. At level 1, it decreases attack by 5%, and at level 3, increases it to 15%. Offensive Guard is especially good on the Lance, which is what I primarily use it on anyways. Could be good for Gun Lance too if you run a more poke-centric playstyle for it. I'm not sure how effective it would be on something like the Greatsword or the Charge Blade. I guess it would just kind of depend. I don't really block with the Greatsword or Sword and Shield unless it's out of desperation, so I don't have too much experience with it there. I'll give it an S+ and a B. Razor Sharp / Spare Shot effect. The Razor Sharp part halves sharpness loss, and Spare Shot gives bows and bowguns a chance to not use up coatings or ammo. Both of these are good, but Spare Shot on bowguns is amazing. If you're lucky enough, you can rapid fire like 5 or 6 cluster bombs in a row without having to use up ammo or reload. So I give it an S+ and an A. Provoker is supposed to increase the attention you draw when attacking a monster. On paper, it would be a way for you to force the monster to aggro on you more in multiplayer, which could be good if you're playing a very defensive weapon like the Lance or Gun Lance. In practice and reading up on this skill online, I have zero idea as to whether this skill actually does anything at all, or if it just gets so easily overridden by other players attacking the monster. I mean, the only place you'd want to use this is in co-op. So, but it just seems, the consensus is that it just doesn't do anything. So, I can't even say it's thematically interesting because the damn thing doesn't even work. So, 2 Fs. At level 1, bleeding resistance reduces damage while bleeding, and at level 3, stops you from bleeding entirely. The only monsters I can think of that even do bleeding are Autogaron and Ruiner Nergigante. I've never had bleeding be an actual issue though, so D and a D. I didn't even know these next two were skills before making this video, since in the DLC you need a specific charm to use these skills. Barbecue Master improves your perfect cooking window for cooking steaks, and Master Fisher makes it easier to catch fish. Obviously, this goes without saying, these are two S++ skills. Leap of Faith lets you perform a Superman dive while facing towards a monster rather than only when facing away. And it also increases the distance of your Superman dive. I don't really see the point. I'll say D and a C. Safe Landing is another skill I never knew about. This skill changes the animation that plays when your character gets knocked back by a heavy attack, so that instead of falling and going prone, you recover with a backflip move. A problem I can immediately think of with this is that for a lot of monsters, you want the full knockback animation, because when you're prone, you get iframes. So it's genuinely safer to just lay on the ground rather than try to recover from an attack sometimes. Sounds like it would visually look cool though, so I'll give it a C and a B. Another DLC charm pair, Scout Fly range up, increases the range of your Scout Flies, and Scholar increases the rate at which you research monsters. Okay. 2 Fs. Blindsider is... What the fuck is Blindsider? Apparently it increases the range of your flash pods. Like, okay. 2 Fs. At level 1, Sleep Resistance reduces the duration of sleep by 30%, and at level 3 prevents sleep entirely. There's only like 3 monsters in the entire game that do sleep. Maybe this would be a nice skill if you were farming Nightshade Palumu. D and an F. Muck Resistance stops you from getting slowed in monster mud, which... Okay, yep. Clearly the devs thought Geratodus was the scariest thing on God's green earth. 2 Fs. That's it for the regular skills, so all we have left is the armor set bonuses. I'm only covering the ones that you can get access to in Iceborne. I don't really feel like covering the ones for low or high rank because they're not even going to be useful once you get to the DLC, so I'm only covering the set bonuses you could actually realistically use in Iceborne's or World's late game, which is where most of the content is anyways. 2 pieces of the Anjanath set grants you extra stamina. This is okay. I kind of struggle to see a super good argument for it, so D and D. 2 pieces of the Rathian set extends the duration of your poison effects on monsters. I think it adds like 20 or 30 seconds, something like that. My issue with this is that it's ultimately still just poison, which kind of sucks in World. It would be fun and thematic to make a build that uses this to try to get as much out of poison as possible. Not sure how great it would be, but it would be interesting, I think, if there was a way to get access to the toxin version or whatever it's called that like Viper Tobikadachi has that does a lot of damage. Something like that would be cool. B and an S. 2 pieces of the Ardian set grants you critical status, which makes your critical hits deal extra ailment to build up. If you're rocking an ailment build that uses crit, this is a good skill to have. I'm not as crazy on crits as some people, but if you're going for a crit build and can work this in, you might as well. S and a C. Commission Alchemy unlocks Bombardier secret with 3 pieces of the Clockwork set equipped. I think all of the set bonus skills that just unlock a secret skill I'm going to give the same rating, which I'll say is an S and an A. Barioff Hidden Art unlocks 2 pieces of his set equipped and gives you Punishing Draw, which adds a stun effect and slightly extra damage to draw attack. I've never used this, but it sounds kind of mid. Like, whatever. I mean, I guess it's probably okay. Probably not anything great. I'll be nice and give it 2 Bs. With 3 pieces of the Raffalo set equipped, you get Mind's Eye / Ballistics, as in just the skill. I've already covered this. If you want the skill from Rathalos, I guess it's fine. Probably not worth wearing the set for just the skill alone, so C and a D. Wearing 3 pieces of the Diablo set gives you Slugger secret, SA. With 3 pieces of the Legiana set, you get the Bow Charge plus skill, which, okay, C and a D. With 3 pieces of the Aldegaron set, you get Protective Polish, you know the drill. CD. 3 pieces of the Nargacuga set gives you True Razor Sharp / Spare Shot, which I'm not entirely sure if the game classifies as a separate skill from the regular Razor Sharp / Spare Shot. I suppose it would, given that there's no Spare Shot deco. The Nargacuga set is really good if you're using a bowgun, in my opinion. Again, the Razor Sharp's whatever, but Spare Shot's always good. I'll give it an A and a C. 3 pieces of the Glavinus set gives you Maximum Might secret. There's really just a lot of armor set bonuses that are just secret skills. I hope they never do this again, though, given how insane the in-game RNG mess of Wilds is. I imagine we're probably getting these back in the DLC for Wilds, but whatever. SA. Wearing 3 pieces of the Brachydius set gives you Agitator secret, SA. Wearing 3 pieces of the Tigrex set gives you Free Meal secret, so yippee. With 2 pieces of the Black Belt set, which, has anyone actually made this other than Completionist? It requires arena tokens, which I hate arena quests a lot, frankly. Arena quests are kind of what I feel like new gen Monster Hunter fans really want it to be, where you don't have to hunt the monster at all. You don't have to actually craft anything. You just get pre-made loadouts to get RNG components to make OP weapons, which is kind of how Wilds is, unfortunately. Anyways, with 2 pieces of this set, you get Capture Master, which has a chance to give you extra rewards if you capture a monster. I've never used this. I cannot speak on whether or not this is ever worth bringing. I will say that this skill is entirely useless if you're trying to hunt a monster that can't be captured. I'll give it an SA. 2 pieces of the Basilgoose set gives you the Guts skill, which is Moxie, prevents you from dying if you take enough damage from a single hit, provided you are also above the health threshold. It's okay if you're wearing Basilgoose pieces. I wouldn't seek it out on purpose. A and a B. With 2 pieces of the Uragon set, you get Guard Up, C and a C. 3 pieces of the Pickle set, Devil Joe, gives you Stamina Thief secret, SA. Now we get a real armor set bonus, thank God. Velkhana, the Velkhana set. At 2 pieces, the Velkhana set gives you Critical Element, which causes your elemental damage to increase when landing critical hits, which is good, but, you know, whatever. At 4 pieces, though, an Aura of Frost builds up around your weapons when they're sheathed that raises your attack, and then the buff dissipates with each attack you do. I really like this set bonus because it actually alters the way you play a bit. It works the way it says. When your weapon is sheathed, a bar fills up. Higher bar means the buff lasts longer, and again, it goes away per hit. The big stipulation is that while the description states that frost builds up around your weapon, which it visually does and looks awesome, your weapon isn't actually being buffed with ice damage, it's a physical damage buff. This skill is really good for the greatsword since you don't hit super quick with it anyways, and you sheath it a lot to maneuver. It's not as good on a fast weapon like the dual blades because the buff goes away pretty quickly. I'll give it an S+ and an S++. With 2 pieces of the Valhazak set, you get the Super Recovery skill. This skill gives you health regen past your red bar gauge, which means it's theoretically possible to heal back your entire health bar without needing to do anything. I say theoretically because the healing speed is quite slow, and certainly not quick enough to keep up with a good chunk of the roster. I do like this armor set bonus though. I used it on my main loadout all the way up until I started farming Safi Jiva. The healing is noticeable, it's not literally a nothing burger. So if you have good evasion or pair of Divine Blessing or have a lance or gun lance, it can be pretty good against chip damage. So, and again, it's an actual unique skill, so I'll give it an A and an S++. 3 pieces of the Teostra set gives you Master's Touch, which prevents your weapons from losing sharpness when landing critical hits. I've never used this. I feel like it would be better to rock Protective Polish or Handicraft though. I'll give it a B and a B. With 3 pieces of the Kushala set, you become immune to all wind pressure, which I've already given my thoughts on Kushala briefly, so I'm just going to say I hate Kushala. Second worst monster. The worst monster is Rathalos. Sorry, Rathalos fans, he's just so annoying. Kushala sucks, but I'll be prudent and give this skill a C and a C. 3 pieces of the Kirin set gives you Great Luck, which has a chance to give you extra rewards at the end of a quest. Unlike Capture Master, Great Luck does not care if you kill or cap a monster, only that you complete the quest. I haven't used it, but it sounds okay for farming, so I'll give it an A and a C. With 2 pieces of the Namiel set, you gain Element Acceleration, which activates level 2 in free element/ammo up, and increases elemental damage after you hit a monster enough times. With 4 pieces, the free element bonus goes up to level 3. This set thematically is interesting, but I wouldn't say it's particularly good. There's so many better ways of just buffing your elemental damage, and having weird burst periods of having your element be active doesn't really flow well, nor does it really offer any benefits. I'll give it a B and an S. With 2 pieces in this set, the Guild Palace set gives you Good Luck, which is a slightly less effective version of Great Luck, and Carving Master, which lets you carve 1 additional time. Another good farming set, if you need one, I think. A and a C. With 4 pieces, the Shara Ishvalda set gives you Windproof level 3, Earplugs level 3, Tremor Resistance level 3, and Flinch free while wearing any mantle. With 5 pieces, the earplugs and windproof go to max. This set bonus is interesting. It's a nice way to give some QOL effects to yourself while wearing mantles. Probably better if you're using mantles that don't have long cooldowns. But if you're not mantled, you won't benefit from this set bonus at all. I'm not really sure I'd say that the skills provided by the set bonus are worth rocking the set for. But it's still cool, so I'll give it an A and an S. Wearing 3 pieces of the Zora Magdaros set gives you Artillery Secret. Yummers. Wearing 3 pieces of the Zenogre set gives you Latent Power Secret. Wowie. At 2 pieces, the Golden Rathian set unlocks Divine Blessing Secret, and at 4 pieces unlocks True Critical Status, which is a better version of Critical Status. Given how fucking insane Divine Blessing is, this set in particular gets S++, but of course I don't feel like it's that expressive, so I'll give it a C there. At 2 pieces, the Silver Rathalos set gives you Slinger Ammo Secret, and with 4 pieces, it gives you True Critical Element. So S and a B. 3 pieces of the Lanustra set gives you Tool Specialist Secret. I mean, do I even need to say the ranking? You could probably guess what it is. Let's keep trucking, bros. With 2 pieces of the Nergigante set, you get Hasten Recovery, which regenerates your health as you continue to attack a monster. The health regen given to you is kind of sad. Not to mention that Iceborne literally gives you the ability to augment your weapon with health regen, which will proc on every hit, as opposed to having to hit a monster enough times to proc one little burst. Thematically, this is really cool, but there's so many other options that are just objectively better than poor Nergi. Framogged by Valhazak, I'll give it a C and an S. 2 pieces of the Rajang set gives you Mind's Eye / Ballistics, and 4 pieces gives you Protective Polish, A and a C. 2 pieces of the Furious Rajang set gives you Maximum Secret, and 4 pieces gives you Heroics Secret, SA. 3 pieces of the Safi set increases your elemental damage, abnormal status, and affinity while your weapon is drawn. Every hit, whether it connects or misses, will drain your health. Landing enough successful hits will restore your health and heal you a little extra. Wearing 5 pieces of the set further enhances your attacks. I really like this set bonus. Yes, the buffs are cool, but I like that it adds this risk-reward system to the combat. It pushes you to be a bit more aggressive, but in a strategic way. You need to accurately hit your attacks, and every hit hurts you until the health restore procs. On its own, the set bonus is kind of rough, with how much health it drains, but if you pair it with a weapon that has health augment, it's pretty manageable. I'll give it an S+ and an S++. The Raging Brachydia set gives you Agitator Secret at level 2 and Artillery Secret at level 4. This is just one of the best sets in the game, so I give it an S+ and a B. With 1 piece equipped, the Frostfang set gives you Punishing Draw, and with 3 pieces, it gives you Slugger Secret, so, SA. At 2 pieces, the Elatrion set increases your weapon's elemental power in relation to your elemental resistance. I believe that for every 15 resistance points, you gain 10 more elemental damage. Something along those lines. With 4 pieces, all of your elemental resistances are increased by 20%. I've never used this, but looking at it, it doesn't seem like it would be that crazy. Though I suppose it could be useful if you want to run a really high elemental resistance build anyways. I'll do 2 S's. 2 pieces of the Kulve Tear-Off set gives you the Gut skill, and 4 pieces unlocks Free Meal Secret, SA. I'm looping all of the event armor set bonuses together. Wearing 3 pieces of any seasonal event armor, such as the Passion armor, gives you a slight chance of getting extra seasonal awards, and 5 pieces further increases your chances. I think these sets are just meant to give you more tickets during events, so they're whatever. C and an F. Okay, finally at the big boy. Wearing 2 pieces of the Fatalis set unlocks the skill Secret Cap for every respective skill in the game. And wearing 4 pieces of the set grants you True Razor Sharp / Spare Shot, as well as an extra health / stamina amount of 100 at the start of a quest or after fainting. The 2-piece unlock's massive. I mean, it literally gives you access to every single max skill level in the game if you want to build for it. The 4-piece bonus is good, but nowhere near as crazy as the 2-piece bonus. Given that it's Fatalis, I'm just going to give this 2 S++s. Well, if you made it this far, good job and thank you. I think doing this video has helped me really contextualize how I feel about skills in the Monster Hunter series, not just World. I really wish Capcom would keep playing around with adding more active skills. There's a lot of skills in Monster Hunter that just sort of translate to do more damage or do more crits or get hit less. And I think having some skills like that is fine, but I personally love skills that alter the way you play in some way, like the Velkhana set or Wide Range. Things that actually let you express your character while still being viable. Capping skills behind armor sets is kind of boring. Personally, I'm not a fan either of skills that just feel mandatory, like a health boost, which is my least favorite skill in the entire game, which I'm pretty sure I said earlier. Thankfully, Capcom is being a bit more creative in Rise and a lesser extent in Wilds, as both games do have skills or set bonuses that give you active buffs or abilities, rather than just passive multipliers. I understand balance is tricky, like, obviously, and I'm not saying every skill needs to radically change how you play. I'm just advocating for having more expressive but viable choices. I'm really not a fan of skills like artillery or anything else that just kind of kills off build expression. Every weapon should have the ability to express itself in different ways that still feel viable, especially if we're not getting new weapons. And as far as armor sets go, I know this is an issue in Wilds again, just like it was kind of an issue in World. I really dislike having armor sets that are just objectively better than everything else. Obviously, stuff at like the start of Master Rank isn't going to be as good as stuff at the end of Master Rank, but when you have so many armor sets, especially if they have unique skills attached, and then they all just kind of become irrelevant because there's like 2 or 3 armor sets that are just objectively better than everything else, it really kills off the expression. I'm aware we have layered armor and stuff, but from what I understand, I haven't made it this far yet, the in-game for Rise has a lot more options for viability in terms of armor. Now, for something like Fatalis, obviously, you know, it's Fatalis, it's the final boss. His armor should just be better than everything else, but I'm just a big fan of having more options. I don't need everything to be literally meta, but just having more viability and different expressions really nice, so Capcom, please do that, thank you. So, at this point, like I said, I'm going to have the 2 tier list up on the screen for a bit, so you can pause and look at each one if you wish. The first one is going to be the utility tier list, and the second is going to be the expression. If you disagree with any of my skill listings, that's perfectly fine. Everyone has their likes and dislikes, which is why I tried to separate them into the 2 lists. Anywho, I'm kind of talked out, man. Recording all of this took a while, so I'll see you next time. Bye!